Alrighty, folks. It is time for the finals of Grand Prix Zakros. Uh, we've got two players on some pretty sweet decks here in the finals match. It's going to be aggro versus tempo, so we'll see which can prevail and come out on top. The player on the higher seed is a deck you might recognize if you were tuned into my fourth round match of this GP. It is Catintree on Naya tokens. 8 creatures split across playsets of Kitsune Matriarch and Ao the Great Equalizer, as well as a bunch of token making spells like Edgeland Pledge, primarily to make Solidarity token as an anthem, but can also make a 1/1 if you pay a green into it, and can deal 2 to something to clear out a blocker or push damage to the face. The Ruins Awaken and Ragtag Squad and Flags on High, all as 2 mana make 2 bodies for 2 mana. Flags on High making 2 soldiers. You can pay 2, sacrifice it to give a creature haste and +1/+0 until end of turn as a sorcery. Ruins Awaken makes 2 golems, and you can pay a white and exile it from your graveyard if a land entered on your turn to make a 3rd golem. And then Ragtag Squad, which from having spectated and played against this deck a decent bit, usually is naming either specifically golem and soldier across the 2 tokens, or like there might be a fringe reason to name like one of those 2 types alongside maybe something like noble. And the reason why you might want to name noble or want to name specific creature types is for assimilate, which is going to be able to put counters on all of the creatures you control of a specific type, and then draw you a card if you have 2 or more creatures that share a name, which notably Ragtag token is, I believe, the name of the token on Ragtag Squad. And I know for a fact the golems are just golem as the token name, and Flags on High's tokens are just named soldier. So pretty sure Ragtag Squad works beneficially for that. But at the very least, regardless, you will be drawing a card if you play it after a Flags on High or play it after a Ruins Awaken. And you'll be putting counters on those as well as any other creatures you control that share the type that you named. So Assimilate, good to push some damage, build up a board. Assimilate is also really good because one of the big things with EO is that EO equalizes the board, is the Great Equalizer. So it sets everything to being a 3/3, with trample and sacrifices at end step if you didn't attack on your turn. So the big thing with EO is your opponent's blockers are going to be 3/3s as well, but if you can get Assimilates to put a bunch of counters on your creatures, you get to break that parity, and then your creatures can just attack in safely, either just pushing through blockers and forcing your opponent to chump block with sometimes very relevant creatures, or worse, your opponent might have to double block some really dinky 1/1s because they're 1/1s with a +1/+1 counter while EO's in play. Beyond that, there's also Penwrath Agenda as the last spell in the main deck, which can make a 2/2 with haste and can't block, can give your creatures +2/+0 until end of turn, and can have all of your creatures collectively beat up on something, with a catch at instant speed for a red, a green, and a white, that you need to have a permanent of either red, green, or white colors to get to choose a mode. So you get to choose a mode if you control a red permanent, if you control a green permanent, and if you control a white permanent. In a case of something like EO, that single-handedly fulfills all 3 requirements, so EO lets you automatically just choose all 3 modes. But there's also a case for something like Ragtag Squad, which makes a red and a green creature, and Ruins Awaken makes white creatures. So there is some more value to be gleaned from Penwrath Agenda on that regard, and I have seen this card kill people very quickly. So yeah, Kitsune Matriarch, I think I did not explain. 1/1 for 1 just gets counters as you make tokens. Wants individual token creation events, so all of these 2 mana spells that make 2 tokens aren't going to quite put a ton of counters, but each individual instance is going to put counters. And so, like, Ruins Awaken's Exile Clause is going to grant you 2 counters from Kitsune Matriarch over the total casting and landfall ability. And I actually did leave out one spell. Another reason you want to name Soldier on Ragtag Squad is not just Assimilate, but also because there are other soldier makers besides just Flags on High. There's also Sparks of a Revolution. Really, really solid spell in this deck. Just a 1 mana 1/1 haste. Functionally, just makes a 1/1 soldier, gives it haste. And then has two conditions you want to check off. You want to deal three damage with 3 or more total sources in a turn, and have a source you control deal 3 damage in a turn. You need to check off 1 each turn as a sorcery, and once you check off 2, you can flip it into Freedom, a legendary enchantment that lets you make another 1/1 tapped and attacking whenever you attack. Really good just because this deck goes really wide to fulfill the first condition of dealing damage with 3 or more sources, and then there are a couple different ways to build things up to be able to deal 3 damage for that second clause. A suitably large Kitsune Matriarch does it, but there's also a case for enough instances of Assimilate can get your tokens to be relevant. Penwrath agendas +2/+0 can get you there. And of course, AO making everything 3/3s is going to make it very trivial to have something deal 3 damage in a turn. So that is the spell base. Mana base is pretty simple: 4 Primal Fissure, 4 of each Shockland, and then 3 Plains, 3 Mountain, 2 Forest. Pretty simple sideboard as well. Playset of Return to Natures, playset of Firebolts, playset of Abominable Avalanches, and a trio of Soul Guide Lanterns to round it out. Keeps things pretty simple, I think. I'm a big fan of this deck. It absolutely paved me into the dirt in round 4. And yeah, this deck kills really fast. So Catintree is going to have the play here, which is a nice boon as well for their hopes on trying to take this GP down. But this isn't going to be a cakewalk because their opponent is DrChipmunk, our current incumbent Grand Prix champion. So Chip looking to try and be the second player in Revolution history to take 2 consecutive GPs down. And not only that, would also just be the second player this year to do so. So Chip has already won 2 other GPs this year. Won the GP in April for the Plane Chase format as well, and then won last month with Golems. So very strong showing from Chip in both of those events. And then Chip has been tinkering with a blue-black tempo deck for a little bit that was starting to put up some good results prior to the tournament in league play, and sure enough has helped them fight their way up to the finals here, though they are in 6th seed. So again, Catintree is going to get the call on who is on play or draw. And assumedly, Catintree is going to choose the play. But Chip has a lot of solid interactive tools, as well as just some good ways to try and push some damage when the window presents itself. Creature Suite is a lot of 3s and 1s, but I believe there are some cases of, yeah, there's a case of Agent of Deception, for instance, being not necessarily a 1 or a 3. So there's 1 Demographer, 3 Architect of the Intangible. Demographer can draw you a card, discard a card. When you discard a non-land card, you make a pledge, and then you can pay 2 and tap it to repeat that ability, pledging for one of the blue cliques, which is either Esper to Surveil 2, Bant, which is tap a creature, an untapped creature, and then you can put a counter on it, or Grixis, which is make a 2/2 colorless creature with Decayed. All 3 modes can be pretty relevant in this matchup. Tapping down opposing blockers can be really relevant if you go for the Bant mode. Surveil could be nice if you just need to dig for the right spell. And the 2/2s can obviously be really relevant, especially in the face of an EO, because the more bodies you have on board, the more detrimental your opponent's EO is for them, if they're not killing you outright the turn they play it. So Demographer, a 1 of. I wouldn't be surprised to see this get boarded out with all of that said, but we'll have to see how the game shakes out in games 2 and potentially 3. There's 3 Architect of the Intangible, as I mentioned. 2 mana, 2/2 for double blue. Mills you for 3, then you can exile an instant, sorcery, or subroutine card. All 7 of the enchantments you see are subroutines. We'll get to that in a moment. And then you can cast a copy of the card. If you don't, you cache it. So you'll exile it under an enchantment token called a memory. You can pay 2 and sacrifice the memory to play the cached card on the turn that you do so. So either you can play this as a sorcery speed Snapcaster Mage, just flashback something in your graveyard, or you can use it to try and bank a spell for a future turn as just a 2/1 blocker for 2. Either way, Architect is pretty nifty in that regard. And it doesn't target, so Graveyard Hate is not going to be able to properly and fully shut it down. Even if your graveyard's empty in the wake of a like Soul Guide Lantern or something, Architect will still be able to just mill 3 and then try and find something that way. There's 4 copies of Agent of Deception split across 3 regular printings and 1 promo. This is what I was talking about where I said it's a little deceiving that there is the 3 and 1 here. It is a full play set. Appropriate that the Agent of Deception is the one deceiving. Classic 2-mana 1/1 Flash Merfolk Rogue that is going to counter a creature or planeswalker unless its controller pays X, or X is your devotion to blue. This card has, as far as I understand, been a staple of the format since its introduction in Theros Age of Trax, and with this being the last standard tournament that Agent of Deception is available for, it's no surprise that it is getting to rocket its way up to the finals here. Alongside newcomer this month, Exorcist of Errors. 2-mana 2/3 Human Warlock. We've seen a decent amount through my GP run because it was in my deck. 2-mana 2/3, when it enters, you have target player separate their hand into a face-up and face-down pile. You can choose one of the piles, reveal that pile if it's the face-down pile, and then you just exile a non-land card from it until the Exorcist leaves the battlefield. Kind of a funky hand attack minigame, but it ultimately is usually just going to take one of your opponent's cards hostage for as long as it sits in play, and for a 2-mana 2/3, that's a pretty relevant body in a lot of situations. Then on the higher end of the creature curve, there's 3 copies each of Preemption Daemon, 4-mana 2/2 with flash and flying that can exile a spell or non-land permanent and lets the owner cast that card by paying 3 rather than its mana cost. So can counter your opponent's spells and kind of put them on layaway for a little bit. If those spells are less than 3 mana, you then tax them as well, which there are a good number of spells in the opponent's deck that are pretty cheap, so Preemption Daemon could relevantly do that. In a pinch, though, this can also just exile a token for good, and then it's just not going to get to be recast because it's a token. It just gets destroyed. Or ceases to exist, rather. As well as 3 copies of Jetstream Cruiser really properly on the top end here. 5-mana 5/4 Flash Flyer. You can discard a card to put a counter on it and activate only once each turn. And you can remove a counter to cast its Discharge instant Freight, which is single blue to flicker a creature you control, returning it to play afterwards. Jetstream Cruiser actually the beneficiary of a buff this month from the start of month patch, where it got flash. So it's a lot more of a tricky play, and you can do nice things with Fright, like use Fright to discard a card from your hand, pay a single blue, flicker your Agent of Deception, or you can flicker Architect of the Intangible to get more value, flicker Exorcist to hand attack your opponent on their draw step, and other good stuff. We're going to have to move pretty quickly because they're about to start their match here. 2 copies of Downlink Overload as cheap removal. That's going to be really relevant here, and they've got 2 more in the sideboard. 1 mana, -2/-2. Its controller mills 2 cards. I imagine there's going to be going up to the full 4. It's a very relevant card here. 4 copies of Soul Space Refit, which does something very similar to Jetstream Cruiser's Fright Discharge spell, of just flickering a creature or subroutine, then returning it to play, and then you cast the top card of your library face down for 2 mana at instant speed. 4 copies of Hang, a 1 and a blue instant that's going to destroy a creature if it has power 3 or less, or if you control a permanent with mana value 3 or greater. Going to be pretty good at picking something off the board. 2 copies of Duress to hand attack. There's actually very few creatures in the opponent's deck, so Duress pretty relevant here. 3 copies of Receive as a bit of gradual value. Surveils 2, when it runs, it can put it in program A, B, or C, and then it'll run at the time that you run that program, or you can pay 2 mana, pay 2 life to sacrifice it and draw 2. And then finally 4 copies of Borrow, which is 2 and a black. You create 2 1/1 jellyfish with flying. You draw 2 cards and gain 2 life when it enters. And then whenever it leaves or runs, you sacrifice a creature, discard a card, and lose 1 life. And you can actually do this alongside Soul Space Refit, where the enter trigger for Borrow is on the stack. You refit the Borrow, stack it so the leave trigger resolves before the second enter trigger, and then you can sacrifice a creature with an empty board, then make 4, discard a card, lose 1, and then make 4 1/1s, draw 4, and gain 4 life. It can be really explosive. Mana base is not too particularly exciting. A lot of good duels, Temple of Origins, Enigmatic Fen, 2 copies of Murky Path, 8 islands and 3 swamps, 1 singular Primal Fisher, and then 2 Ephemeral Mire as the creature land to try and punch through. I'm going to try and hurry and get us into this match here because they are in the lobby, but it looks like they have not properly started. So we will pan on over. There's a bit of conversation with Chip asking if it's okay that she records. Which reminds me, by the way, as I'm saying this, I should have a time card popping up on the screen right now, and it'll be linked in the description as well. Chipmunk has been recording her run through this GP, so regardless of how this match pans out, you'll be able to watch her perspective, listen to her rationale as far as play pattern choices are made. So if you want to get the bird's eye view on how things are going down on that end of the match, I highly encourage you check out Chipmunk's perspective on this match. I know I will be once I'm done recording. So unsurprisingly, Catintree calls for the play. We will pan back to the deck lists after this game 1 to talk about what the oh, wrong deck. Fabricated Anomaly. Yeah, that is incorrect. Oop. We might already have a judge call. Or something worthy of a judge call. Yep, Chip calling judge. Catintree queued up the wrong deck here. Clearest indicator of this, because Flags on High's in that deck. Windbeaten Stones, Primal Fisher, Urban Jungle are all in there. Fabricated Anomaly is not. Catintree asking what the right thing to do here is. Chip is suggesting flag a judge, but says probably just restarting with the right deck. So they're pinging judge right now, trying to get a quick fix for this. In the meantime, as I was saying, we'll pan back to the deck lists after this first game to talk about Chipmunk's sideboard and break down how I think the sideboards might change. So we're getting a quick fix. It's kind of a bummer because this hand is a little awkward for Chip. Only a single black source that's going to cost her life, but you know, Duress, Downlink Overload, Hang, Receive, all pretty good. They're discussing it now. Fortunately, it might not be too big of a problem because it is being noticed during opening hands and not with any game actions having been taken beyond that. It has been asked if anyone's observing the game, so us having our perspective might help. I'm going to jot down real quick what the hand is. I'm going to jot down both hands. It seems like that might not even be necessary because Zangy, one of the other people spectating, and one of the curators mentioned they just got a screenshot, but I'm going to do it anyways. If anything, just because I want to remember what these opening hands were. One Duress, one Receive, one Downlink Overload, and one Hang. We're going to restart the game, letting Cat load the correct deck, but Chip will retain hand and then can mulligan as needed. Okay, so Catintree sounds like is going to get a properly new hand, and we're just going to have to make sure that Chip gets the correct hand. Alrighty. Thought about pausing there, but it was a pretty quick solve, so felt like there was no need to get an apology in there from Catintree. It happens. That's one of the problems with playing on a digital platform like this where it can be very easy to just load up a deck and not realize you loaded up the wrong deck. I have almost done it multiple times going into GP matches. I'm always really careful. I keep tournament decks in a separate folder on my computer than the folder where I keep decks that I'm like playtesting or playing in League. And I do that very deliberately so that way I don't make that mistake going into a GP match. But believe me, it happens. So it is very fortunate that we caught this prior to much happening within the game. So I can confirm the hand is the same. Zangy has confirmed as well. Duress, Receive, Hang, Downlink, Overload, Fen, and 2 islands. Both players keep 7. Urban Jungle and Primal Fissure is the only hands for Catintree. Leads on Shockin, Urban Jungle for Sparks of Revolution, as well as keeping 2 Ruins Awaken, Ragtag Squad, and Edgeland Pledge. A lot of 2-mana spells sitting over here. Chip draws a second Hang. So interesting choice to come down here on many fronts. Obviously, Shocking in the Enigmatic Fen seems pretty reasonable. With all of the 1-mana plays here, but it was a question of Duress versus Receive versus Hang, and the call here is being made for Duress. So gonna get to see only 1 land on the other side of the table here, but some pretty good spells here. Catintree says, glad I drew a card I wasn't meant to have. Yeah, it's very glad that, very fortunate that we caught that in Mulligans and not in the middle of a match. Give me a moment. I normally remember to close programs that might make noise during recordings. I forgot. So Chip currently debating what to take here. It's kind of tough. Yeah, it takes Edgeland Pledge. I think that's the most reasonable. Because like it's pick your poison on what 2/2 for 2, or like what pair of 1/1s for 2 that you want to pick off here. Like, if you could get rid of both Ruins Awaken, that would be the dream, but you can't, so you might as well let them stick around. The new question becomes, does Ruins Awaken come down here versus Ragtag Squad? And I imagine Chip is expecting the Ruins Awaken, and especially with that Mountain draw, Ruins just seems like the safer play. And that is, in fact, what's going to come down here. So the reason to go for Ruins Awaken here, especially with the Mountain draw, is that Mountain enables you to go Ragtag Squad next turn, holding up a white to then play Ruins Awaken, or to use Ruin Awaken's landfall ability. Chip draws Exorcist of Errors. Can be a pretty good tool here. Knowing that there's Ruins Awaken and Ragtag Squad, there could be a clever mind game here of Catintree going for... reveal the 2 spells that are known, hide the Mountain to try and bait Chip into taking the Mountain here. And now, if this face down card is AO, there could be an argument for Chip to be worried about a top deck land into AO, but I can't imagine you don't just take the Ragtag Squad here. Either Ragtag Squad or Ruins Awaken. I think you just got to take something known, right? Like, there's the gamble that this is AO, but there's no guarantee. And it's more probable that it's a land than if it's an AO. Takes the Ragtag Squad. That's a very heads-up play here. Catintree accidentally puts it in discard pile. Should be exiled under Exorcist. I think Catintree did this when we played against them as well. Which is fair. It's an easy mistake to make. But yeah, very heads-up play from... Chip here, taking them off of Ragtag Squad, both on the basis of denying them another hasty attacker for next turn, but also this takes them off of, at least for what's in hand, the potential to go Ruins Awaken plus landfall ability. Now with Flags on High as the draw, that reintroduces that option for Cat on Tree, but either way, you're at least denying the hasty token off a Ragtag Squad. So I'm very happy if I'm Chip seeing this turn of events. Kills a Golem, takes 2. And then is probably just going to go Mountain Flags, eat the Ruins in the graveyard, and hope that the Ruins Awaken in hand doesn't cause too many more issues. So is, in fact, going to go for the Ruins Awaken from graveyard, and then jam Flags on High, and the 1 card remaining in hand Chip does know about. So the Exorcist draw was really good for Chip, but otherwise this hang looking a little awkward right now. Ephemeral Mire is interesting. So one of the things to consider here is actually no, this is the Ephemeral Mire is a free land drop here because there's nothing that this island allows you to play. So yeah, this Ephemeral Mire showed up just on time. But so the interesting thing here is to consider whether setting up Receive to fix draws is more valuable than holding up the removal. And Chip, I'd say pretty wisely decides that the removal is more important here. Can downlink Overload in a pinch, but more realistically, the worst draw you can see from your opponent here is going to be AO, and Hang is just going to clean that up properly quickly. So hopefully AO is the top deck here from Catintree to convince Cat to go for the kill here. Because an EO does represent 12 damage to the opponent, but instead it is a Wind-Beaten Stones as the draw. Now asks the question of, do we shock this in just so we can Ruins Awaken landfall ability? Or do we hold the land, just go for Ruins Awaken, save the land to just do the landfall ability from Graveyard next turn? Either way, looks like going to combat with the squad. I imagine you block Golem here, just to open up the potential for providing one fewer mode on. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank on Penwrath agenda. One fewer mode on a Penwrath agenda by them not having any white permanents, though, of course, the Ruins Awaken in hand will complicate that a little bit. Chip in Declare blocks is going to downlink Overload one of the soldiers. I think that's also reasonable. Obviously, if they had Assimilate, they would do it before combat. Oh, the mill on Ruins Awaken is so unfortunate. That's not a card you want to see your opponent mill here. But it's just a bad beats you got to take because you need to hold up that downlink Overload, or you need to use that downlink Overload when you have a chance to. So does shock in the Wind-Beaten Stones here. This is going to give them the opportunity to play and exile one of these two Ruins Awaken. Obviously, the one that just got milled is going to be stuck in Graveyard for a little bit, but it's not going to be stuck there forever. Any land drop provides that, and then we're also reaching the stage of the game where Flags on High can just be cracked to give something haste. And notably, while Hang is good at killing things from this opposing deck, Flags on High theoretically could get around Hang if Chip didn't respond to it, but Chip is always going to be able to respond to it. But just nice to note that the additional power from Flags on High can interfere with the power condition on Hang. Another island is the draw from Chip here. The 8 islands starting to look kind of awkward just with the handful of black spells, though I understand why there is such a higher density of islands given the Architects of the Intangible and the demands that places on your mana base for a double blue 2-drop, as well as Agent of Deception. Like, a lot of the 2-drops in this deck and a lot of the top-end threats are all blue, and a majority of those creatures have 2 blue pips in their casting costs, so it's a reasonable choice to make, but it's just quite awkward in this situation. Goes for Receive, set on program A to try and fix draws. Catintree only picks up a land here, but will be able to at least use that land to flip this next Ruins Awaken out of the graveyard. Could be an argument for holding on to it. Doesn't crack the Flags on High, notably. So Chip is just going to block another one of the golems. And then Hang, presumably one of the golems. Yep, pick off 2 golems, take 4. So Chip is going down to 7 here. It's starting to get real sketchy. But Receive will try and fine-tune things on this next turn. Not going to fine-tune the next draw because this happens on main phase. But, yep, going to get rid of Ruins Awaken, play the Mountain, and just go empty-handed. So any Duress or Exorcist of Errors draw is a blank, though Exorcist being a blocker is still nice. Chip untaps, draws Borrow. That is huge. So Receive is going to Surveil 2 here. and then can put Borrow on program A, and this won't run for 3 turns. And can even go Borrow, like play Island Borrow, hold up Hang, or play something else off of the Ephemeral Mire and Enigmatic Fen. That is a significantly good draw here. One of the best draws, I think, in my opinion, that Chip could have expected to see here, just because this opens the door for a significant comeback. The life gain is going to be really important. The tokens are going to be great for just coming up the board and starting to stall out the pressure coming from the opponent here. And the subroutine leaving or running clause is just not going to come up for a little bit. So getting this surveil in. Curious to know what is being surveilled past here. We'll see if anything goes to graveyard. Bins another Borrow. I think that's reasonable. Getting multiple of these in play, while the bodies that it generates can be really nice, the downside is that multiple copies of this means you're triggering the Borrow subroutine running clause more often, and that can be a real liability. Chooses to play the island, but leave up an island over Enigmatic Fen, drawing Architect of the Intangible and another Hang. I think if I'm Chip, I'm comfortable holding up Hang here, and that is in fact what happens. The Architect of the Intangible now means that there is the window for Chip to go Architect of the Intangible and just cast Downlink, Overload, or Hang next turn off of the Architect, which could be pretty nice. Kitsune Matriarch is the draw for Catintree. I'm not sure if that's something being run out. Asks if we're on B. Goes to A first time. Yeah. Oh, asking if we're on B next turn. Quite sure why the question, why that is being questioned, but curious to know what Cat is thinking here. Yeah, this Matriarch is an awkward draw here. The downside of Matriarch is just how awkward it looks in a top deck war. This is one of the best 1-drops in the format right now, in my opinion. But this really is the drawback of playing this card in this point in time. Is that like if you rip it off the top when you're looking for something to try and meaningfully increment your pressure, this is not going to do it. But if it was a turn 1 play, this is a whole different story where Kitsune Matriarch could just take over this game. Though then again, we did see a duress on turn 1, and I think if Matriarch is the lead on turn 1, a Downlink Overload just comes down instead of duress on turn 1. So going for blocking 1 soldier, 2 golems, I think that's a very responsible play with the knowledge of the assimilates in the opponent's deck. Try and minimize the number of mutual shared creature types. This does kill both of the jellyfish tokens, but that puts Catintree down to 2 bodies on the board. Kitsune Matriarch is going to be a third. Chip choosing not to use the removal spell before blockers, and ends up getting the reward here of Hang getting to snag this Kitsune Matriarch rather than sitting around. So Matriarch down. And Chip, while there is still problems to maneuver around, the game's starting to stabilize. It also just occurred to me, we saw the exact card that got kept on top with Receive, which is the Architect of the Intangible, because it was the first card drawn last turn. Temple of Origins is the pickup here. Could potentially see Temple of Origins, Architect of the Intangible go for Borrow. Though I think I like just going for Architect Downlink Overload, because it provides a window to start pushing damage with the Exorcist of the Errors while holding up Hang. Mills, Preemption Daemon, Island, and another Borrow. Preemption Daemon can't be gotten with this. Yeah, they're just going to go for the Downlink Overload play. So Overload, pick off a Golem, mill another 2 cards out of the opponent. Might be possible that Cat is not remembering this. Yeah, get a reminder from Chip here in chat. Mills an AO and Kitsune Matriarch off the top. AO just not showing up in time, and is a great mill to see if you're Chip here. especially with this Flags on High sitting on the board. Because the usual fun line to play against AO is your opponent casts AO, you remove their one creature before they can go to attack. But with the Flags on High, they can just haste AO and get around it. Flags on High is the draw. Chip did decide not to apply pressure with Exorcist that turn, and does end up getting a little rewarded for it just on the basis of another Flags coming down to try and put some hasty power in play by like getting a sacrifice. Though there is an argument, a pretty reasonable argument, to hold this second Flags on High and not crack either. And that is going to be what happens from Catintree. And the reason is that helps you get to Sparks of a Revolution flipping in its entirety. We see receive, cracked here to draw 2, lose 2. Exorcist of Errors, Architect of the Intangible are the draws here. Demographer is the draw for turn. And then we go to Program C. So there is a little bit of danger here. Program A is going to run next turn. Borrow is going to force a sacrifice, a discard, and a loss of life, putting Chip to 4. Could try and go Architect of the Intangible, try and dig for another like a flicker spell or anything to try and capitalize on this. I am curious to know Chip's rationale for not running out the Temple of Origins. I have to imagine it was just trying to hold something you don't mind discarding to borrow on the following turn. But I think with Architect of the Intangible being what it is, I really like the idea of just trying to maximize the value here. We see Swamp, Soul Space Refit, and Receive getting milled here. And Refit is going to be really good, so can go for Borrow, Flicker with Soul Space Refit. That is going to stack the Enter and Leaves trigger on the stack in any order that Chip likes, and then caches the top card of the library face down, and that's going to happen before the draw either way. So that's going to be a nice extra little resource available for Chip, and Chip is going to be able to reset Borrow onto Program C, so it will run in 3 turns rather than 1 turn. This is the other nice thing about Soul Space Refit. If you don't mind getting the borrow condition a turn early, or potentially 2 turns early, you can flicker it as it's about to run on a following turn, and just kind of get the running out of the way under your own terms while setting up to start doing things off of the Enter trigger again immediately. Did go for making and drawing the cards before doing the sacrifice, which I think was reasonable, and chose to sacrifice an Architect of the Intangible rather than burning up one of the jellyfish, which I think is reasonable. Good to try and push some stuff over the top here with this board stall, though there is some danger here because Chip is leaving up a single mana with no spells in hand to spend it. Doesn't want to tap out for the Demographer because there is a desire to try and feign an extra copy of Downlink Overload here, but there's only one more in the deck. Penwrath Agenda is a really unfortunate draw with all of these white creatures getting picked off here. Penwrath Agenda could free the Ragtag squad from Exorcist of Errors, but that would be the entirety of this turn. And at that point, yeah, Cat is just going to pass and maybe try and use this Penwrath Agenda to deal 3 to the Exorcist of Errors on Chip's end step. But this Soul Space Refit's just going to scuttle that plan entirely, because it can just flicker out the Exorcist of Errors and then take the Ragtag squad back all over again. And I think if I'm Chip, I'm seeing my opponent 2 flags and high in play, the ability to flip Sparks of a Revolution with 1 attacker, not go for it. And that is a clear window that there is something going on in the opponent's hand that's really important. And sure enough, it's the only instant in the opponent's deck. So Chip can very reasonably plan around what this card is. Draws another Temple of Origins here. So back to Program A, which is not going to hurt because Borrow has been moved to C. Memory Token, by the way, is another Temple of Origins. So no urgency to crack that memory. But if the game gets to a point where they just really, really need another land drop, the memory can get them a tapped land for 2 mana. We see a tap for 2 and an Exorcist of Errors. Force the issue on main phase 1 before Penwrath Agenda can clean up the problem. So now this asks a really important question of, do you kill an Exorcist of Errors right here and now and accept that the Ragtag squad is still just going to be sitting away in the hand, or do you try and go for something else on this Penrith agenda? I could see an argument for making a 2/2, but we'll see what happens. First mode is going to make a 2/2. All right, so dodges the Exorcist successfully and chooses to develop more board presence rather than pushing damage onto this Exorcist of Errors, which I think is pretty responsible. You know that the opponent has flicker spells, so you'd rather not play into those flicker spells if at all possible. And of course, sure enough, Soul Space Refit is hanging out here to punish. Ephemeral Mire gets animated here for 1 mana, and 5 damage coming in across the Jellyfish and the Mire. Puts Catintree to 11, and then 2 mana up, 3 creatures in play. Refit and Hang both getting represented here. Assimilate is the draw. That is going to be pretty substantial. There's no value to using Hang here to pick off a soldier token, I think. Because you don't deny the card draw. If you had the ability to remove 2 soldiers here, I think or if there were only 2 soldiers in play, I think you always Hang here to pick off one of them. And if your opponent just gets to put the counter on the Berserker instead, then that's just a price you'll have to pay. Penrith Agenda is a crazy draw here. Wow. Unfortunately, it is going to be really awkward because once again, whatever mode gets chosen here is going to be able to be impacted in some way. I assume we're going to see +3/+0 come down here. Or sorry, +2/+0. So Chip asks for modes. Second mode, it is going to be +2/+0. I suppose Chip could ask for targets, but it's pretty safe to assume Catintree is targeting themselves. Yep, does actually clarify Chip doesn't need to ask. So this is going to be a suite of 4 power creatures. Chip can hang one of them and then trade off the rest, but that accepts giving the Ragtag squad away. I think that's a worthy cost to pay here. I think you just get to hold this Demographer, hold this Soul Space Refit. You can apply some points of pressure next turn. Probably not with the Ephemeral Mire, but the opponent's on an empty board there. And you can blink the Borrow on second main to try and find stuff to rebuild a board presence. We see Chip thinking here. We know for a fact that on 2 mana, there's nothing that counters instants. So this really is just debating removal spell options. Chip does allow it to resolve. It is possible that Chip either holds the Hang or goes for like Soul Space Refit on Borrow now to hold the Hang. That could be interesting. Like Refit, Flicker Borrow to program A, make 2 1/1s and put one of the 1/1s under one of these creatures. Or even like chump both. Or chump like 2 of these tokens. Then like trade off Architect, trade off this Exorcist. To keep 2 Jellyfish in play. Or keep 1 Jellyfish, because I imagine you sacrifice. This is going to be what happens. Is that Borrow is getting flickered. So we'll see how blocks happen. I wonder if it's going to be sacrifice a tap to Jellyfish and then double block with the Jellyfish, or if it's going to be something else here. Card getting peeked at is a Receive getting tucked under a memory here. So Borrow, yep, is getting moved over to program A. Gains 2, draws 2, then has to sacrifice something, lose 1, discard a card. Island is a pretty safe discard here. Agent of Deception does add some incentive to not block with the Architect of the Intangible. We're going to see... yeah, we're going to see full blocks. Double Jellyfish blocking one of the 4/2s. Everything dies here. Ragtag Squad goes back over to the opponent. And we're going to kind of clean up the board here. But that is going to flip Sparks of Revolution. Something is dealing 4 this turn. So Chip is not out of this just yet. And notably, the Agent of Deception got discarded, not the island. So land drops still being deemed pretty valuable. I wonder if we see Demographer come down here next turn, or if it's just going to stay in hand to try and feign more interaction. Draws another Ephemeral Mire. Well, I imagine that just comes down instead of the island. So big questions here are, we know the opponent has Ragtag Squad. Do you swing with the Jellyfish and leave yourself open, or do you just plan on trying to block the Ragtag Squad token? The nice thing about the token is Chip can kind of play around the flags on high, giving something haste, or if nothing gets haste, can play around it by just killing the Ragtag Squad token with haste on the opponent's start of combat. Demographer draws and discards a Primal Fisher, so no pledging there. 26 cards in library for Chipmunk here. A lot of cards seen, but has not fully stabilized yet because we know that Freedom is going to cause some problems and there is still pressure at hand. Really remarkable how well this tokens deck is grinding. I remember one of the things I recall Catintree mentioning from our match in round 4 of the GP was their note that they hadn't had many games pushed too long. And so they weren't, I believe they'd said they weren't super certain about how well their deck could grind long term. But we're seeing a pretty comfortable display here of just how well this deck can push over the long term. Is going to crack and play receive here. Seems pretty reasonable. No reason to hold that. Gets you to 3 devotion between receive, demographer, and borrow. And then ephemeral mires can be animated. This can be animated either to apply pressure, but combat's already been done. Is just going to hold this as a potential blocker or just go for hang. Primal Fisher is the draw for Catintree. An unfortunate draw here, but great if you are Chip on the other side of the table here. So we're going to see the Ragtag Squad come down here. It's possible this Primal Fisher just sits in hand to feign a potential trick. Though actually, notably, a misplay here from Catintree using the Urban Jungle to cast Ragtag Squad does not allow them to feign a third Penwrath agenda because that is their only green source right now. Granted, if they're just going to crack a flags on high, they don't need to feign it, but it is worth noting nonetheless. So we're going to see Ragtag token gain haste here. I assume Chip's just going to let that happen and then at start of combat kill something. It's possible Chip even lets this Ragtag token through and just animates Ephemeral Mire to kill the Soldier token while holding hang. We get the go-ahead from Chip to go to combat. So attackers are declared. Freedom's going to trigger and make a 1/1 colorless soldier tapped and attacking. 4 coming in here at Chip to threaten going to 3. Animates Ephemeral Mire, kills the colorless soldier token, and puts Demographer in front of the red Ragtag. Take 2 and get the free kill on one of these tokens. All right. So 1 damage marked on Demographer, probably not going to be too important right this moment. Does play the Primal Fisher, so not keeping any secrets here. Chip untaps, draws another Enigmatic Fen, really unfortunate, but means that this island is very clear to just kind of get pitched to this next borrow trigger, but you gotta find something to do here soon. Bins another Enigmatic Fen and a Duress off of receive, and things are starting to look really sketchy. Can't put anything in play to get these Ephemeral Mires to cost 1 to animate. If Chip pays for the cost to crack open this memory and play a Temple of Origins, that's 2 mana, 2 and 2 to animate both of these Ephemeral Mires, and then can tap them after blockers are declared to hang. Yeah, I think you're probably clear to just play the land under the memory. Because I think you're at a low enough life total where you are not super comfortable just like popping this receive to draw cards. So it is nice to clear the Duress and the Enigmatic Fen off the top with receive, though. Very, very good to get that out of the way. Seeing a bit of thinking coming down here from Chip. I imagine she is evaluating something akin to the line I just outlined with the Ephemeral Mires blocking to try and clean up the board. Then the big question then becomes, is this jellyfish token blocking? And that is a tough proposition to wage, just because you do want something that you can justify sacrificing to borrow. And at this point, your opponent's at 10. I think you got to keep the Demographer to keep digging for something more relevant, especially with these lands in hand. We're going to see the Fen played from hand. So this is going to leave up the... oh, wow. Swinging with one of the two Ephemeral Mires, swing for 4. Yeah, that is a pretty heads-up play from Chip as well, deciding, hey, I don't care if you go to combat next turn. I don't care if you swing. I have 2 Ephemeral Mires. I put you at exact lethal for these 2 Ephemeral Mires. Really heads-up play. And AO is the draw from Catintree. Oh my goodness. And so Cat's probably going to go cast AO, crack flags on high, targeting EO, and then can just get the EO hit by Hang in response. And that's actually going to take damage off the board because the threat here was flags on high buffing one of these tokens to get in for an extra point of damage. But with targeting EO, this Hang just gets to pick it off instead. So does, in fact, buff EO here. Goes to combat. And, yeah. Chip is going to go to 3, or sorry, go to 2, and then Borrow's going to tick Chip down to 1 measly point of life. My goodness. Every point of life has mattered this game. Actually, Chip's going to go to 3 because Chip can just block one of these tokens with Demographer. Actually can go to 4 because by playing this land drop and not paying to crack the memory, can hold up the activation and activate Ephemeral Mire, block 2 of these tokens. So it can pick off the red and green ragtags here if desired, leaving Catintree with only the... Oh, actually killed both soldiers. Catintree scoops it up. That is the game clocked up. Very close one. Very, very tense match to watch here. Let's hurry on over to the deck lists real quick and see if we can check out what these sideboards look like. Chip has 1 more copy of Exorcist of Errors, 2 more copies of Downlink Overload, 3 copies of Rabora's Appetite, a 4-mana counterspell that makes an XX, where X is the number of instants in your graveyard and permanents you control with flash. This is not coming in. 3 copies of Click, which is going to be great here. It's another subroutine, 2 mana. At your upkeep, you can put a charge counter on it, and when it runs, you can sacrifice it to pop every non-land permanent with mana value equal to the number of charge counters on it, so you can just leave it at 0 and then crack it open. Players are already beginning mulligans, so I'm going to try and hurry here, because this call probably not coming in, Archival Storage probably not coming in. It's probably just Click and maybe Downlink Overloads for Chip. And then for Catintree, it's probably some combination of Return to Nature, maybe Abominable Avalanche, maybe Soul Guide Lantern, but Return to Nature is probably the most important just to pick off these borrows, particularly in response to flicker effects. Return to Nature also very good because it can kill the 4 and 5 drop spells at the top of the curve. So let's hurry on back to Revolution match here. Looks like both players kept 7. Cat on the play again, leading on Kitsune Matriarch with Flags on High, Primal Fisher, Penwrath Agenda, Mountain, and AO in hand. Chip has Drawn Demographer, has Enigmatic Fen, Island, Soulspace Refit, Borrow, Exorcist of Errors, Architect of the Intangible, and Duress. So Duress looking really good here, and it really is just a question of play Demographer off the island or shock in for Duress. And I think if you shock in for Duress, you're going to be very happy with what you see here, because that is going to be Duress denying the flags on high, and unless Catintree draws another token-making spell, this Matriarch's only getting in for 1, and Cat's potentially got nothing to do next turn. While Penwrath Agenda and AO are definitely scary, if you can keep the opponent off of developing the early board, that is going to be the difference maker. So I think the choice Chip has to make here now is getting this flags on high out of the way more valuable than denying the Penwrath Agenda later on? And it's going to be the flags. So taking a gamble here that Catintree does not draw another 2-mana token maker. The big punish here is Ragtag Squad off the top, because Ragtag Squad is just the best one. Penwrath Agenda number 2. Oof. Chip dodging a bullet here, so Kitsune Matriarch's just going to get in for 1. And now Chip knows the EO is over there, knows a Penwrath Agenda is over there, can just go for Exorcist of Errors on turn 2 again, and this Exorcist can just strip away the EO. There's not much that Catintree can do about this. They're going to have to probably just go Penwrath Agenda, make a 2/2, and possibly not even attack, because what are you going to do with the attack on the Matriarch against a 2/3? Another new draw is a hang, so Chip potentially getting a little mana screwed here, but Exorcist is going to do some nice work to cause some issues here. I mean, if I'm Catintree, I just show the 3 cards that Chip already knows. There's no reason to be coy. You put a Penwrath Agenda into play face down and reveal the rest. When Duress is combined with Exorcist of Errors, the minigame of Exorcist becomes a lot less important, and it's really just, I show you the things you don't know about versus the things you do. Hides the Mountain, kind of interesting. I think you just take the EO, right? EO is such a big board swing, and I guess if you know that the opponent had a second EO, that would be really awkward, but you don't, and I think being able to deny the known copy of EO is more important than hoping your opponent doesn't have a second. Because if you're that worried about your opponent curving into EO, you would just hold up the hang here. It does take the EO here, so that is going to be the biggest stat buff on board taken care of for the time being. We'll see if Catintree cracks Primal Fissure before draw here. It does not, just hold on to it. Edgeland Pledge is the pickup, so now there is an argument for Edgeland Pledge paying a red to deal 2, or paying a green. If you pay a green on the Edgeland Pledge, that makes you a 1/1 and a Solidarity token, 2 separate token creation events, and then you get to swing for 4 with Kitsune Matriarch. That might be what's happening here. Yeah, Edgeland Pledge paying a green. All right, so this is going to be Matriarch getting in for 4 here. We see a soldier token come into play. It gains haste until end of turn, but I don't imagine it swings in because you don't want it to get blocked by Exorcist here. So the reason that works is Edgeland Pledge's modal component is a delayed triggered ability. When you create the Solidarity token, you pay for and choose any number. And so as a result, you create the Solidarity token, then a triggered ability goes on the stack to create another token. So that's why it works so well with Kitsune Matriarch, despite Matriarch generally not liking spells that make multiple tokens. Borrow is the draw here, so Chip is going to miss a land drop. Might just need to go for hang on the Kitsune Matriarch here. Is going to be hang on Kitsune Matriarch at sorcery speed. Take no risks. Don't let the opponent have a chance to instant speed make a token. Seems reasonable enough. And just going to hold the Exorcist back. No need to pressure right now. What you need is land drops. And holding up blockers gives you time to find them. Another Edgeland Pledge is the pickup. Oh my goodness. So now Cat can go same as before. Pay a green to make a 1/1. Make another Solidarity token. Wow, going for the soldier token attack instead, trying to fade some sort of combat trick here. I feel like you just go for the Edgeland Pledge mode again, try and swing 6, but maybe just really determined to try and get some value out of this Penwrath Agenda, maybe. I don't love this, because, like, are you just playing Penwrath Agenda and giving your creatures +2/+0? That's no different than having it fight. Just pops the soldier token here. You can't deal the damage with Edgeland Pledge. Just passes turn. And as a result, Penwrath Agenda has no text. There's no permanence of any color in play. These lands are colorless. Wow, Catintree might have just made a detrimental misplay, and that has just paved the way for Chip to start turning the corner. Primal Fissure is the ideal top deck with that in mind. Can now go borrow, set up a couple 1/1s for blocking, and start refueling, digging for those extra land drops. to pull back into this. And yeah, if I'm Chip, I'm very happy to see the opponent pass here. Called the bluff and is very, very well off for it. Applies 2 points of pressure, plays the Primal Fisher, presumably getting a swamp. Does get the swamp. And Borrow? Borrow coming down. Put it on program C. And make some magic happen. Asking for the enter trigger is pretty reasonable here because it's safe to assume the opponent boarded and returned to nature, and Cat could respond to the borrow enter here by return to naturing the borrow and forcing the exorcist off the board. It's possible that's why Catintree made the play that they did. They were trying to represent like Firebolt, Return to Nature, or Abominable Avalanche, but unfortunately it's none of the above. Draws are Jetstream Cruiser and Temple of Origins. That's going to be a land drop next turn. Plains is the draw here from Catintree, and the question then becomes, do you accept the mistake you've made and make the token? No, you're just going to commit. So still holding up the tricks here, but Catintree just has nothing. The only thing Chip has to worry about right now is losing this Exorcist of Errors, and right now it's not under threat. Penrith Agenda has no text. It's one of the biggest drawbacks of Penrith Agenda. It is amazing when you are ahead, and when you're behind, it is one of the worst cards you can find. Especially in a situation like this, where the only chance to try and get a non-creature permanent into play was denied by that turn 1 duress, really making that Flags and High pick off pull weight there. Demographer coming down here, presumably going to loot away one of these lands, maybe the Temple of Origins. Gets rid of the Murky Path instead, and plays the Temple tapped as land for turn, so they can have untapped land next turn. Untapped land's Jetstream Cruiser is going to be really, really scary here. Wow, Catintree just picks up another Primal Fisher, and yeah, this is just getting away from Catintree really fast here. From a profoundly scary hand to suddenly stuck with a whole lot of nothing. And we're going to see, it looks like Chip Soul Space refitting Borrow. Yeah, so Borrow gets flickered out, put into Program A. Cashes away this extra copy of Soul Space Refit, so can do that again for 4 mana on a future turn. Makes 2 more 1/1s, gains 2 life, draws 2 cards, then does the discard 1, sacrifice 1. I might even see the Demographer get sacrificed here. Just keep the pressure up as much as you can. Does pop one of the Jellyfish. Demographer deemed valuable enough as a reasonable wall for 1/1 tokens, though Solidarity makes that more awkward. Another reason why I think Demographer might just want to have gotten sacrificed there. Borrow number 3 is the draw. Yeah, I think like you are sitting super comfy if you're Chipmunk here. Apply 5 points of pressure, put your opponent to 9, and then you have Island here. You can just flash in Jetstream Cruiser, threaten lethal next turn, or flash in Preemption Daemon if something goes wrong. The draw is a Wind-Beaten Stones. Yeah, there's just not much to happen here. Cracks Primal Fisher after the draw, goes and gets another mountain, so Edgeland Pledge can now be used as removal. And I just don't think it's going to matter. Like, Edgeland Pledge can pick off one of the flyers, but 2 power on the flyers, plus Jetstream Cruiser for 6. Actually, Jetstream Cruiser for 7, because you can discard a card on end of your opponent's turn and then discard a card on your turn to put 2 counters total on it. It is going to be Edgeland Pledge, paying presumably red and green. Just deal 2 and make the soldier token here. Yep, makes the soldier, makes the 2 damage shot, picking off one of the jellyfish, I assume. That is what's going to happen here. And then, yeah, it's just over. Jetstream Cruiser is going to come down, pick up 2 counters, and then that's 7 damage in the air just on the Jetstream Cruiser, plus 2 more on the Jellyfish tokens. And that's exact lethal. Catintree going for the attack, which just leaves them even more vulnerable to the kill here because Exorcist is now an additional 2 points of damage. Don't even need to pitch anything to the Cruiser. Flashes in the Cruiser. Discards a borrow. Just ambush Vipers the soldier token. And that is a clean 2-0 from Chipmunk here. Outgrinding the tokens deck here and completely taking over the game in game 2. Wow. And we have DrChipmunk making Revolution history as the second player to ever go back-to-back in Revolution GPs. This is now 2 GPs in a row that Chip has won between this month and last month, and that is Chip's 3rd GP win of not only the year, but of the 2025 to 2026 Worlds season. So Chip has 3 GP crowns in terms of determining seeding for the Worlds tournament. I cannot imagine Chip not getting to determine player draw in every single match when we get to Worlds in April of next year. Regardless, Catintree does qualify for Worlds here because Chip was already qualified for Worlds from the April GP. So congrats to Catintree on the Worlds qualification, and congrats to Chipmunk on making history here as the second player ever to get the back-to-back. And with a pretty remarkable pair of games and some really, really clean decisions between those games. The lethal setup in game 1 was really, really solid, and game 2 just got to dominate the token deck on an awkward draw. All thanks to turn 1 duress, take away the 1 token maker, and then the token decks just got no tricks. Wow, that was a match to behold right there. Again, well played to both players. They both fought really hard to get to this point of the tournament. This was Catintree's first loss of the tournament. So both these players ending their runs at, I believe, 6-1. Nothing to scoff at on either side of this table here. So very well played from both of them. Hope they all had fun with this GP, and I hope you all have had fun with this GP as well. Hope you enjoyed my run. I hope you enjoyed the commentary on this match, and I hope that you all are excited for next month. As far as any last things to talk about, I don't want to linger too long here, but it is worth noting next month is our variant format for the month. So next month will not be a standard GP, and in fact, it is going to be a Brawl GP. I'm just going to bring us back to the bracket here now that it's updated to reflect the scores at the end of this tournament. But so next month is going to be a Brawl GP. So legendary creature, planeswalker, or I believe vehicles also allowed as of the Edge of Eternity's ruling in the command zone. Might be some changes coming down the pipe for next month relating to any Brawl needed changes. We know Faces of the Faceless from Kitsuo Dusk of Time is banned, so we might see a small change to that, but probably not. It'll probably just stay banned. Not sure what else will get banned at the patch next month, but as soon as I know, I'll get that video up to you all as the patch notes to start off the August tournament month. And I look forward to figuring out what Brawl Commander I'm going to bring, and I hope you all are excited for all of that. I can't wait for another GP. I had so much fun with this one, and congrats again to Chipmunk and Catintree for their performances, and Chip on becoming the second player to get 2 GP wins in a row. Really, really remarkable stuff here. And if you just look at that top row here, not sure if I'm cutting off any of this. I am, in fact, cutting off some of it. I can make this look a little awkward on my end to slide this into play here. Just go ahead and take a gander at this top row here. We get GP Zakros, GP Shigane Manor, GP Halls of Valor, all DrChipmunk. It is the season of DrChipmunk. Really great stuff. I can't wait to see what happens next. So, with all of that, that is me signing off for this match and this GP. Zakros was a blast. And I can't wait to unravel what the Brawl season holds, as well as gear up for the next rotation in September. I'll see you all as we make our way through the next steps here. And until the next time, presumably patch notes, I hope you all take care, and I'll see you all in the Revolution chat. Bye-bye.